All right, everybody. My next guest is a comedian, host of the show Millennial Stoner, where he talks comedy with many of our local Long Island comedian friends. You could also catch him performing all over our great island. Here he is, everybody, the one and only Joe Winchell. Joe, how's it going, man?
Pretty good, Don. How you doing?
Good, bro. It's good to see you. It's been a minute since I've seen you. I think the last time was at Gov's
in person, probably a little while.
Yeah.
But Andy Plajanos is a mutual friend of ours, and
Yeah,
Andy always kind of relayed messages. If you were like, "Hey, tell Joe I'm watching the show" and stuff, and I just want to say I always really appreciated that, man. And thanks for all the warm wishings and everything like that.
for sure, dude. I love the show, man. It's
Thank you.
yeah, Millennial Stoner. I love what you're doing. You're natural at it.
Thanks, Dan.
I think, yeah. Sometimes you don't realize you got this, knack for something until you start doing it. What made you start doing the show, and how did you get it launched? And just walk me through the origins of Millennial Stoner and stuff.
Oh man. Well, I've always been a fan of radio in general. Like I like anybody. Like I grew up listening to old O&A episodes. Ron and Fez was another one I liked. Howard Stern, So I was like kind of started there, and then when like podcasts started being a thing, like I remember a long time ago, it was really just like Mark Maron and Kevin Smith. They were like the only two guys doing podcasts and everything like that.
Yeah.
So like, and it was like really interesting. It was like this different kind of free flow medium and everything like that. So I became a fan of that, and I started just listening to Maron and like Kevin Smith and everything, and like it grew from there. And I started listening to more and more. And I always wanted to do it. I just didn't know what it would be about. And then, I started doing comedy and everything, and the opportunity to kind of, you always got to do more than one thing in comedy if you want to be successful at it and everything. And I really wanted to do a podcast. And luckily, I got a really great tech savvy friend who actually you just saw before, my friend Chris, who was always hounding me to do something. He was like, "You got to do something else, man. You should do something. You should do a YouTube page. You do something." And I said, I've always wanted to do a podcast. And he goes, "Great, come over. I have podcast stuff."
Nice.
So when I started it, I didn't really know what the hell I was doing. I admit I didn't know. I kind of still don't know what the hell I'm doing, but such is life. And I kind of just talk. I was like, I didn't have a guest or anything. I'm like, I'm going to talk into the microphone. I'm just going to do it Bill Burr style, right? And what I learned after I recorded that is I am not Bill Burr. Not Bill Burr. It made me want to really do something. So started kind of figuring it out from there. And really I started doing it when because I was doing comedy. And I knew all these really funny comedians and everything. And like, not that there's like a level or anything like that, but, it was some of them open micers, some of them just starting to be comedians, like, and I was like, there's a lot of really funny people out there. It'd be really great if there was like a show that showcased that, like on like a low level, even an open mic or whatever like that, kind of talk about their experiences, their life a little bit, because I don't think any normal people do comedy. So it's always like, I do comedy. Also, I used to live in Bulgaria for reasons, you know what I mean? Like, it's always some weird caveat. So you always get interesting stories out of people like that. I also tried to interview people who aren't necessarily comedians and everything. That's just kind of who I know. I hope to branch out and interview more interesting people and everything like that, and different types of people. But I started doing it just because I was always a fan of that one-on-one kind of, Joe Rogan does it. A lot of people kind of do that one-on-one kind of. I just like to talk to people.
Right on.
So that's kind of why I did it. And I think I know funny people. So if I have X amount of subscribers or whatever the hell, not a whole lot, but maybe if one of them finds this comedian funny, they go check him out at McGuire's, or they go see him at a bar show or something.
My God.
Whoa, she looks like Tekashi 6ix9ine.
My God, she does look like Tekashi 6ix9ine. What is this fucking model's name?
Put her up on the screen. That's so funny.
Once you start watching your show, you kind of get hooked and you watch the whole thing because the conversation just flows like naturally. Like, I don't even know if you do any prep or have any questions. It just seems like it's just a natural kind of progression of a conversation, and it goes in places that is really interesting. And I like when you have on younger comics or any comic, really, because you guys end up talking shop, you're talking comedy, and I find that interesting too, to see the kind of the growing pains and some of the do's and don'ts and lessons learned. Like for you, I
Yeah.
saw in one of the episodes, I think Tony Lindorf told you, not in the episode, but you told the story about Tony explaining to you not to wear a jacket on stage.
Yeah, Tony Landolfi told me not to wear a jacket on. I was doing this thing. I feel like when you're in comedy, you get at one point you're going to start playing around with how you look, and it's the first choice is never right. I had this leather jacket, and like if you want to, it's a nice leather jacket, but like if you go on stage like that, I'm like, who the hell do you think I'm not Andrew Dice Clay, you know what I mean? But Tony's advice was, it's weird because my profile picture on Facebook is me with the jacket on stage.
I think it's a cool jacket, but yeah,
it's the Easy Rider, the Johnny Knoxville jacket.
Yeah.
And that was my you always think I'm like, I want to be the jacket guy, and then you're like, you don't want to be the jacket guy. No one wants to be the jacket guy, man. But Tony was like, you want a piece of, I think we were at McGuire's or something. He's like, hey, piece of advice. Don't wear the jacket on stage. And I'm like, why? And he goes, people are going to start to think you're going to leave. And it's like, I was like, oh yeah, it makes sense just from a psychological standpoint. If just like, oh yeah, if I go up on stage with a jacket, there might be people in the audience like, why is his jacket on? I guess he doesn't really care about performing very long. He's just going to leave. So,
right.
But
it's interesting you talk about that, because like I did comedy very briefly in the late 90s, early 2000s. And my thing was I would wear these FUBU football jerseys with the number 5 on them.
the old like over big ones from like the early 2000s.
Yeah, so that was like my thing. And I wish somebody would have told me, Don, no, just dress natural or something, or normal.
I think anybody tries to, I think there's the idea of kind of giving a thing, like everybody wants to have a thing. And it's always amazing to me, because all of the comics I really like are pretty straightforward comedians. They're either like straight up New York comedians, or even like a George Carlin, whom I love, who is a little more performative or presentational. It was just a guy talking at the end of the day, So it's always funny to me. Like, listen, I'm not shitting on anybody who like has a guitar or is a prop comic or anything. I really am not.
Right.
When I get to a higher level, I will, but I'm not there yet.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not, because I know a lot of guys that do that. Andy does that stuff, and like, but for me, I never wanted to like have like a thing, I didn't need I didn't want a puppet, like the jacket. So the jacket was like the one thing that I was like, maybe this is my thing. And then I was quickly told, like, don't make that your thing. And I'm like, okay, fair.
I think we play around with it. Yeah. And you talk about guys like Plajanos.
Yeah.
I love guys that have a lot of tricks in the bag. Whether it's guitars, he does the Dracula, he does like all kinds, he does puppets, he does all kinds of stuff, and then he could do straight stand-up. So I get a kick out of that, but it is one of those things where if you're going to be that guy, you have to be that.
You have to really be that guy.
I know. I've been working on this material for 600 years.
Yeah.
You can't just casually have a sock puppet. Nobody wants a non-committal. Some comedian going up there and not committing to his sock puppetry. You want it, like, even if it's not necessarily like my thing performative wise. I mean, it's not necessarily my thing, but like other people have done it to much more success. I'd rather just go up there and tell dick jokes.
Right.
It's my favorite thing to do. But like, if you get, like I said, you can't like, because every once in a while you'll see somebody that'll do like half regular comedy, and they'll do like half, all of a sudden they'll whip a guitar out of nowhere.
Right.
And it kind of comes out of nowhere. I'm like, I don't know, all of a sudden I'm supposed to buy you as like, some sort of Hall & Oates, Al Yankovic genius. I don't know.
Well, you mentioned a lot of like great podcasters that are comedians also. You mentioned like, Bill Burr, Rogan, Mark Maron, who to me, Mark Maron was the first one that got me roped into podcasts too, like years ago. His was the first one.
Good. He was so good, man.
The early days.
He would just talk.
And he would just talk to comedians. Like, do you ever heard the one where he talked to Mencia?
Yep.
And like those were great. Now he kind of went more Hollywood, I think, or something. And then
he got to a level. This happens all the time. People always get accused of selling out, and I'm just like, whatever, make more money. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
And like, but it's like he just got. I mean, here's the thing. It's weird because it's still Mark Maron. It's just like, because like Mark Maron is this weird curmudgeon, like old hippie comedian and everything. So it's just like a guy like him talking to like Taylor Swift, but he's just kind of like, yeah, he's like, you know what I mean? So it's like the idea of that's really funny to me. But yeah, because he was, you start, you elevate, but Maron would just talk.
Yeah, I didn't really listen to podcasts, but I knew that people did them. So when I lost my last job at the outlet that I was at, like at Air America doing a video thing, I asked my producer, I'm like, can you figure out how to do this? I mean, Corolla went right from radio, but then there was people like Kevin Smith and Jimmy Pardo, right? And
So were theirs already up and going though?
right, there was a few of guys I knew.
He's got a great voice too. I like listening.
Oh, it's very soothing.
Yeah, yeah.
I have to be careful listening to it at night, or else I'll drive off 495 into the river. Because he just, and I don't mean like he puts me to sleep. I mean like he has such a soothing voice sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
yeah, same. Man. Yeah.
But he's got great interview skills, and I've listened to him a bunch just to try to get like tips and like little tactics that he does to kind of make people comfortable and get a good interview, because it's so important. Because sometimes it's not just you got to be a good interviewer as well as have a good guest. It's got to be both ways, I think. But we're gonna record basically everything. We're gonna cut this together and we're going to release it and go from there.
Going back to Millennial Stoner, you're getting open mic people that nobody knows a lot of times, and you're making it interesting. So kudos for that. You know what I'm saying?
Thanks, man.
You're not relying on a big name.
No, I mean, I can't. No one knows who the hell I am anyway. So it's like, but yeah, I just know people who I think are funny, and that many of which haven't even done a podcast before, let alone mine. And so it's just kind of, and if you do comedy long enough and you're successful at it, you end up, because this is just like a new medium for comedy. Right, so I think you'll probably end up doing more of these. I would assume it's more. I'm not very successful, but I assume people who are successful get to be on bigger podcasts, because like every comedian that I know and respect, like that's at a level that's like a New York comedian, like a Sam Morril or Mark Normand or something, like they have their own podcast and they always have different guests on there. So you're going to end up doing it if you're going to do comedy, I think.
Yeah, man. Sometimes you'll see comics like grow through the ranks just based off the podcast they're on. So like all of a sudden you'll see like Mark Normand. I remember when he was, not as popular. And now all of a sudden he's like a regular on Rogan. I'm like, oh,
which is like recent, only last couple of years, you know what I mean? And that's what it did for him, It gave him a wider audience. It's a good tool.
Right, yeah, because now Rogan's become like the new, Johnny Carson used to be back in the day. Yeah, so if you
I like Rogan. I'm not one of those guys that like hangs my hat on like that worships Rogan.
Right.
Like everything I hang on his every word. And I'm like, nah, it's all right. I listen to him sometimes. Like,
I always like the fact that when it comes to Rogan is that he could fact check himself in real time if he gets into stuff like that. But yeah, you can't, even with any of these podcasts, you can't really
first of all, they're comedy podcasts, and at the end of the day, it's a comedian doing, like, you can never, sometimes people take it way too seriously. You know what I mean? Like that whole Church of Joe kind of like mentality and everything. Or like, actually, I'll say it's less Joe Rogan. Another dude I love and I listen to his podcast all the time is Tim Dillon.
Oh yeah. He's
Tim Dillon,
Long Island guy. Yeah.
Long Island's own Tim Dillon, just bringing Long Island cynicism like on the forefront, because he talks like so many people I know.
Stop being a negative Ned. Stop being so negative about these mass shootings. Am I the only one who sees these mass shootings as a great way to appreciate life?
But he's another guy that, like, you meet that group of people that's like, everything he says, I have it tattooed on my body. And I'm like, that's a little extreme. This is a comedy podcast.
He doesn't even believe half the stuff he's saying sometimes.
He says outrageous shit to be funny. That's why he's hilarious. Yeah.
I saw him in West Hampton.
He did?
Over the summer. Yeah. He basically did a podcast live. That's basically what it was.
He did a Tim Dillon show. Yeah. That's what people said. He's I'm just trying to make people laugh on their drive from and to work.
When it comes to guys like those Marons, Rogans of the world, do you like their comedy, their stand-up as well, or just the podcast? Because like the only one of those that I think the comedy That isn't that where it should be is probably Rogan. I think Rogan's a great podcaster, but his stand-up doesn't hold up like Maron's.
Yeah,
or Bill
Maron's.
Burr.
I was a fan of Maron's comedy before because I used to see Maron on like the Late Show all the time.
Yeah, Maron rocks.
Yeah. He was always very funny. So I knew Maron, and I'm a fan of Maron's comedy. He has great stuff. He has a new special out that I actually have to watch. I haven't watched it yet. I think it's on Netflix or something.
It's HBO. I think I haven't watched
HBO?
it yet either. Yeah,
I
HBO
heard,
Max.
Everybody said it was good. So Maron I was a fan of. Rogan, like I wasn't, to be fair, I'm not a huge fan of his comedy, although he has one bit that I think is like brilliant, where he talks about if aliens landed on Earth, you have to explain, like you have to introduce them to like the most famous person in the world, and that's Kim Kardashian. And how do you explain Kim Kardashian? Well, if you're going to explain Kim Kardashian, you have to explain football because you have to explain OJ. And he goes to this whole thing, and it's actually one of my favorite comedy bits. I have it on like a shuffle playlist of like little bits on like an MP3 I have.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
I do believe in aliens, but I believe they gave up on people a long time ago.
I would argue that I think Joe's probably at this point more known for his podcasting than he has been for his comedy, but he's made me laugh before. I haven't seen every one of his specials. I'm not like again, it's like I think he's a good podcaster. I like he has comedians on.
Isn't it crazy with Rogan? Like there's people that don't know that he ever did comedy ever. Like they only know him from Fear Factor or from the podcast.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy. Well, it's crazy because like he kind of got known on Fear Factor. He actually hosted the Man Show at one point with
Stanhope.
Yeah, with Stanhope, which was a great pairing and underrated. But like people knew him, and then when from the podcast blew up, I think that's when everybody really started to know like Joe Rogan and everything. But like there's people like I again, like I think it's a great podcast. I think it's interesting. I think I think it's hilarious. I love when he has comedians on. Like I love when he has like 4 comedians on at once. Usually the funniest shit I can watch. But like, it goes up. Like I don't really give a shit when he has like some sort of scientist on. I just don't care. Like it's like
talking about Atlantis or some shit.
Yeah, no, I mean some of that stuff. Like if there's like a dude, like an archaeologist, I'll get high and listen to that. Like you kidding? Like he's like, I'm talking about dinosaur bones. And I'm like, word, son, tell me about the Bone Wars. Like that. I'll watch that shit. But like if he has like an astrologist or like I'm not a political person. Any political stuff I pass on because I'm like I don't really give a shit. That's funny.
That's actually Mitch McConnell as Trump's body.
This is Russ's political humor for today.
There's a Donald J. Duck, Bros Before. That's a good one.
Something about the shittiness of it that's great because his head is way off.
Yeah. Well,
I mean this lovingly because
those heads are perfect.
I mean this is incredible, but this is also awful. Like,
well, yeah.
So now with you, it's the Millennial Stoner. So there's a lot of getting high involved.
Yeah.
Are you an edibles guy, or is it strictly smoking? Or
it depends. Edibles are like the Russian roulette of weed for me, because like it'll affect me differently. Like I remember the first time I took an edible. Like I was, it was like this most stereotypical thing ever. Like I was with my buddy and we were all going to go see like Transformers. I think it was like 4 at this point or 3. I don't remember exactly, but it was one of those. And we were in like Bohemia, and like I was with my buddy from college, and he says, "Oh, we're gonna go get cookies." And I go, "Yeah, let's do that," because I like hadn't really had edibles. This is like when I was like 22.
Right.
I hadn't really had edibles before, so we go to like a Taco Bell parking lot. We're like waiting for the guy. We're in a Taco Bell parking lot, and all of a sudden, like this like dreadlock hippie wearing like a kitchen apron, like a cooking apron, just like gets in the backseat of my car, and I'm like, "What the hell?" And he's like, "Here you go, guys." And he gives us like a lovely wrapped like a gift basket in like the foil with a little bow on it. And it looked like the Dutch Stouffer's cookies, those like big round ones that look like magma.
Yeah.
Or whatever the hell. There were those, and I was like, "Oh, this is awesome." And he goes, "Are you guys planning to eat?" There was like 5 or 6 of them in there. And the guy goes, like, "Were you planning on eating all these by yourselves?" And we're like, "No." And he goes, "That's good, because I put like 60 grams of hash oil in those things." And I was like, "What?" Which, now isn't a whole lot for me, but at the time I was like, how much is that per cookie? Like, I don't know. So we go back, we eat the cookies, and we go to the movie, and it's like the most hilarious, because it's like a Michael Bay movie, and I'm like super ripped, so everything's in like 5D is the best way I can describe it.
Right.
Because I'm not only seeing, hearing, and feeling it, but I'm also like just like having the same emotions as the characters. It's hilarious. And like my buddy, like we get out of this movie, and I'm like, I'm so high, I'm silent. Like I'm just like I'm done. Like the imagery and everything, like it's just I'm stupid high. I can't barely speak. And no one, we drove there, and no one can drive because we all took edibles because it's no one can drive. No one could drive, and we ended up having to like wait an hour for what, like my buddy like sobered up and was just like, I'll drive. And just like it was literally straight into the left, and it was like you would have thought that we were trying to like chalk the wagon across the river in Oregon Trail, because it was like the most, like, to this day I was like, I hope we don't die. Like I thought we were going to die for some reason. So that's why I don't mess around with edibles a whole lot, but I do like edibles. Like you can, like, I'm never going to turn one down. If someone gives one to me, I'm going to take it. Which I suppose is how a lot of date rape happens, but like it's just how I live my life.
There you go. Yeah, I with edibles seems to be like the cleanest way, but like you said, you never know, and clean because there's no smoke. No one really knows you know what you're doing, but you don't know really. Every time you bite into something, you don't know how much or how little you're gonna get.
It's always like an idea on the package, like it's about between 20 and 30 milligrams, and you're always like, I can handle this, but if it goes over here, so it really depends. Really, it's always fun. You know, I just have to make sure I'm not like stuck in the middle of some highway somewhere. That's flagging down my car and nothing but my underwear and a handkerchief.
That's why for me, I don't smoke a lot, so I have really low tolerance. But if I do an edible or something like that, I literally have to make sure, okay, there's everything. I got a safe route to the bedroom.
Oh, you have to plan? You want to like I have to set?
I'm a rookie. Yeah,
that's fine.
I used to be more. Yeah.
It's completely fine. Like there's a lot of people, because like a lot of people in comedy, like it's like 50-50. Like a lot of people in the comedy community do smoke, and then a lot don't. So it's like I have friends that do and don't. Like, you know, I hang out with Billy Geyer and stuff, who's a chimney stack, whom I love to death. But like it's like I'm always cool. Like I don't like bug people about it. You know, I'm not like, just join, you fucking pussy. Like I'm not one of those guys.
Right.
You know, I'm just like, that's cool, man. Because I'm like, part of it is like, I have like severe ADHD, if you can't tell by the rambling answers I give. So like it helps like a lot. Like and I'm sure I have like anxiety and shit like that. So it does help. Like I've always said, like, it does help. Like I'm not one of those people that waking up at 7 a.m. and just being like, you know, like I go about my day a little bit. If I have to go to work and anything, you know, I go about my day, but you know, I smoke every day, just not like immediately. Some of this is going to have to get cut, especially the part where we just got really high now and we're like, so what are you into? Do you like Magic the Gathering?
Right. And like you said, you got a tolerance to it. One of my best friends.
Oh, yeah, my tolerance is way up at this point.
Yeah. My friend, man, he smokes all the time, and you never know it because he just feels like he's normal. Like, you know what I mean? Doesn't act like he's stoned. You know what I mean?
Well, that's also like what an addict would do. So it's like, it's like, I didn't even know he was high. I mean, he's been a heroin addict for like the whole time. You know what I mean?
Exactly, man.
That's what alcoholics do. Because I've said the same thing, but I'm always just like, yeah, that's what alcoholics do. Like, we're just really good at hiding it. I'm like, that's why I make no bones. Like, I don't want people to think I'm an addict. So if I'm high, I announce it when I walk in the room, and I'm not trying to hide it.
Right.
Because it's also like, who gives a shit? Like, it's never, being high is never a problem. You know what I mean? Like, it really isn't. Like, if you get too high, you just eat too much fucking shrimp at the restaurant you're at. And then you go home and go to bed. Like you're not starting a riot on weed.
It's not rowdy. Yeah.
You know, like here's what happens. You drink alcohol and then add weed to that makes a special hate tornado, you know, but if you're just high, I mean, come on, what are we talking about here? You're not going to have an argument. The only argument you're having is who won in Street Fighter 2.
Yeah, that's great, man. I always, you know, when you see the kind of stoner lifestyle, there's a part of me that that yearns for that. Like I would love to have like play video games and all. Like I don't even game, man. I'm just getting old all of a sudden.
That what are you? You don't look a day over 45. Like how?
I'm 50. I'm 51 now.
You look 39.
Hey, there you go.
No, I mean it's because I know there's different kinds of stoners too. Like I am the video game playing stoner. Like that's when I'm not. I like get like one day off a week where I literally do fucking nothing. Like I do nothing.
Right.
It's Tuesday. It was yesterday. It was my day to do nothing.
Nice.
And I just, like I don't even sleep in. I like to start my laziness right away. I don't even want to sleep in. I get up and like that's a day where I'll smoke like in the morning and everything because I don't have to do anything except play Pac-Man all day. Yeah, that's what I do. I am that guy, but there are different people. Like I know like different people who smoke under different circumstances and they live more active lifestyles. I know CrossFitters who smoke a shit ton of weed.
Yeah.
Like I've met like, I know a lot of actors, artists, stuff like, and it's all like different because, some son of a bitch will get high and then like paint amazing painting.
Right.
You know what I mean? I've seen it done or draw. I have a friend who he draws and everything. But like, I'm not going to do that. Like it's not, I'm going to go play God of War 5 times because that's what I do.
I tried it, man. I tried to write high.
High.
Yeah, I got high and I would write stories and it was just all a clusterfuck, man. Like
getting high and writing is okay for me. I think I can't drink and write. That's anytime I do that, like I write something down and then like the next day I'm like, this is so funny, and then I look at the next day and I'm just like, what the fuck is Dead Friends times 3? Like I don't know what the hell I was thinking last night.
But yeah, I mean, talking to Plagianos a lot, and he's been becoming quite the stoner himself these days.
Well, he lost a vice because he can't drink anymore. So it's like one of those things where it's like everybody needs a vice. I'm convinced of this. And vice isn't necessarily drugs or alcohol. It's always like just something that you do that's like, that feeds the need.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? That's why,
I agree with that. I do, and I don't even know anymore, like my vice, what it would be these days. But I drink a lot. I drink whiskey.
You drink? So you're an alcoholic. That's most people.
Pretty. I'm trying. I'm getting there. No, I'm just kidding.
I used to drink. I used to drink a lot more. I'm like trying to step back in my drinking a little bit, just because like it's very much like I was in like that. We had like a bar we went to. I was like one of those dudes. Right. Like had the bar jacket, was on the float during the St. Patrick's Day parade, would like start drinking at like 6 a.m. that day. Like we were like a weird community. And then like that bar closed, which in hindsight was probably a good idea, because if that place stayed open, it would have gotten dark. Like it would have gotten like somebody would have died one night and it would have been the same. It would have been like somebody would have been arrested for something, or somebody would have stabbed somebody, So it ended. What's up?
I was gonna say, this is in Sag Harbor?
No, this was out in Sayville.
Oh, okay.
So I went to college at Suffolk Community College, and we had through that, I had a friend of mine that went to this bar, which is no longer there, called the Halfpenny Pub. It was in Sayville. It was like right on the outskirts of like if you were on Patchogue Main Street and you kind of just kept going, like I think west, you'll end up like you would have ran past that bar on the left-hand side. It was an Irish pub. Place ruled. It's everything that every bad decision that I ever made, I made at that bar. I don't mean like, and I mean like bad decisions. I mean like bad decisions where I necessarily didn't get in trouble, but when you look back on it, you're like, probably shouldn't have done that. Like, shouldn't have taken place in that.
Yeah.
But that's what that's the kind of place it was. So yeah, but it was like a rowdy time. We constantly, we used to do this thing. I didn't do it, but I used to watch my friends do these things called truck bombs. You know what truck bombs are?
What's a truck bomb?
You know what a car bomb is? Like an Irish car bomb, like the shot.
Yeah, it's a shot. What's in the shot again of an Irish car bomb?
It's like half a Guinness, it's half a Guinness, like a half shot glass full of Jameson, and then Bailey's on top. And then you drop the shot into the Guinness and you shoot it down as fast as you possibly can.
Yes, I've had those before.
A truck bomb is the same concept, except it's a half picture full of Guinness and a rocks glass. So my friends would do these things called truck bombs. Funniest thing I'd ever seen is I watched a buddy do 2 of them, and that's just so much. It's like, full pay. He did 2 of them, and then he kicked. He got, and that's like immediately getting like that's like feeling you get drunk. Like you've ever just shotgunned that. He did 2 of them back to back. He kicked open the back door. Did I think he did a front flip if I remember correctly, and then immediately projectile vomited over the side.
Holy shit.
That man is still my best friend to this day. Yeah.
Damn.
Like everybody threw up at that bar, like as a rite of passage, usually outside it was a disgusting place. But like that's how that was like like after college, we just kept going to that bar for the longest time. So it was like that was the lifestyle. That's what we did. And I'm trying not to drink like that anymore. I'm trying to remember that it's just easier to get high and eat ice cream and play PS5. Just do that.
But now St. Patrick's Day is coming up, and you're gonna want to do those truck bombs.
Nah, I'm good. You know why? Because number one, a lot of that group of people is very split up now. And that was like a group of people I like drinking with, but also like when you don't drink for a little bit and then you see people who get drunk and you're around them, you're like, this is awful. Like,
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So it's one of those things of like, maybe I'll see, like, I don't know, some redheaded broad will flash her eyebrows at me and be like, and I'll do whatever she says. So we'll see.
Do you, what do you do for St. Patrick's Day? Do you go all out? Are you out and about for that? Is that a big night for you? You're Irish
anymore. Yeah, I'm Scotch Irish.
There you go.
After a while, you realize that St. Patrick's Day is just a bunch of Italian guys in green.
Happy St. Patrick's Day. We're back for second year.
St. Patty's Day. Woo!
Happy St. Patty's Day.
Right on.
Right now, you drunk already. Okay, good.
Especially here on Long Island.
Yeah, it's like but don't it's not, but I feel like if I wore like an Italian pride shirt to like the Italian Day Parade, they would kick the shit out of me. Am I wrong to assume? But like everybody gets to be Irish on St. Patrick's Day. I find it offensive. It's ridiculous.
You should try it out. Just go to like the Mother Cabrini in Manhattan, in Brooklyn one day. Just
Yeah, I don't
wear a wife beater.
Oh, it's so funny when I dress up like you, is it? Some dude named Nunzio dressed as like a Lucky Charms character in the middle of St. Patrick's Day. It's great.
A jig is a dance. The Irish a dance, Irish a jig.
How do you start it?
Too much booze and not enough bedroom.
But it is that. It's a lot. It's like, because again, we had a group of people that we drank with. We went to the same bar every year. We got like, and when you go to the same bar every year, it's like going to a casino. They give you like bonus points. You know what I mean? Where like, like that's really what it was. That was my first real experience to rewards, was like just being like, yeah, if you just keep coming here and if you don't cause trouble, like we'll give you drink bonuses where you don't have to pay for anything. Like that was the kind of like establishment that we were going to. Like the 20 or 30 of these like hardcore regulars is what we were. We got like just like fast pass. Like the bar would be packed, and we would watch the bartender walk all the way down to our end. Like we would have just walked in, 30 people have been waiting for 20 minutes. They would serve us first, and we would always get complaints, and none of us cared because they weren't going to kick us out. Like
you guys were like the Cheers gang.
If we were like violent assholes, yeah, like that's kind of how it was. Not violent assholes, raging assholes probably is the better idea to put it. But But like that was the kind of bar it was. We went every year. I guess that was because we would do the parade. So the parade, you had to get to the bar at like 7 a.m. and like we would just start drinking. We would drink Guinness that morning, like on the float and everything, and they would start the day off with a car bomb, and then like And then like you'd crap out by like 6 o'clock. Some people would go and take naps and be like, I'm coming back. And I'm like, dude, if I go to bed, I'm done. That's the point of day drinking. Like day drinking is supposed to stop at 5. You're supposed to start in the morning and then you stop it. That's a day of drinking. You know, if it goes into the night, that's not day drinking. That's a problem.
Yeah,
that's like alcoholism.
Yeah, that's a problem.
And you shouldn't keep going. Like that's like, it's one of those things, like you kind of want to be the tough person, but like the only time that it's never been, oh man, I always wake up the next morning and like something always feels dislocated, or just like something's like hurt about me. And I'm just like hanging off the side of a bed. It feels like there's a monkey hitting like the side of my head with a sledgehammer. Like it's, you know, and then I have to look through my phone to see which ex-girlfriend I texted and begged to take me back. Like it's never,
yeah, it never leads to good
morning.
things.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh my God, I texted Sarah 30 times and I think this is just a video of me crying. Like I just sent her a video of me crying. This will work. This will get her back.
Some seemed like a good idea at 3 a.m. Yeah, you know.
Yeah,
But-
exactly. So I do, like, for St. Patrick's Day, I always say this. If like my best friend calls me and says we're doing a little something, I'll do that. But otherwise, I'm probably just gonna like smoke green weed at home and call myself festive.
There you go.
I'll watch The Departed. That'll be that's a salute to my Irish roots. Or if I want to be real white trash, I'll watch the Boondock Saints 3 times and cry to it.
There you go.
And I love that. I fancy myself a little white trash, so I might do that.
Yeah, Boondock Saints, man. Freaking classic. Also, I just recently had Rob White on the show, and
I'm actually going to see Rob later. We're actually doing a little interview thingy with him where I'm getting a tattoo from him. So
he mentioned that. Yes.
Sneak preview for everybody that listens to this. Rob's going to be putting something out soon with me in it.
That's going to be awesome. I love that. What are you getting again? He mentioned
Krusty the Clown. Which I don't know if it's supposed to be a secret. If it is, I guess beep it out. But like it's I'm a huge Simpsons fan, and that's like one of my favorite characters.
Yeah, because he mentioned that you were getting Krusty and that he loves the idea because Krusty's a comedian.
Yeah.
Also, and it's a comedy related piece and all the stuff. And you're a comic.
It's a comedy related piece without being a queef about it. Like it's not like, because I don't want to get a microphone like some fucking little like some fucking queefy little twatty. Like you know, I hate that when you see some dude and you're like, this is because like it's always like a stupid explanation.
Right.
You know,
right.
like I get tattooed, like it's everything is so, all my tattoos have the simplest explanation. They're like, why do you have a Superman tattoo? And I go, I like Superman. And they go, why do you have a Wonder Woman tattoo? I'm like, I like Wonder Woman. And they're like, why do you have a Batman tattoo? I'm like, can you guess why I have it?
No Marvel.
Because
it's
I'm a DC guy. I'm not one of those, like, I'm not like an angry nerd where I'm like, fuck Marvel, but I'm like, I'm a DC guy. I was raised on Batman and Superman, actually. Yeah, those are the two that I read the most as a kid.
Dude,
so
Batman's to me, he's the GOAT of them all. Is Batman. That's just me.
Greatest of all time. I don't know. I feel like the term GOAT gets thrown around a little bit too much. I think there can only be one GOAT. But he's like, this is my argument for DC. It's like not an argument that it's greater, but like the thing that I like about it personally is like they're like the oldest superheroes, like Batman, Superman. They were like the Superman is literally the first superhero. You know, it's very like not like literally, but as far as one that was marketable and that was like really took off, like it was like Superman. Like he was, and it's in the name. Like it's crazy to me that years later it's still like he's called Superman. Like it's a dumb name. Like let's be like it's not like the most brilliant. Like you know, it's like a kind of a dumb. So is Batman for that. Batman. Like that's what strikes fear into the heart of everybody. Who's that? Batman. It's not like Night Demon or the Soul. You know, it's Batman. But we love it, and I love it too because like the simplicity of it is one of the greatest things about it. You know, I have tons of Batman comics. I have tons of Superman comics. I have some Marvel. Like, there's Marvel characters that I like. Like, I love X-Men, and I don't know how you can, in this day and age, how you can't be a Spider-Man fan. If you've read comics, it's like insane to me that you can't at least like Spider-Man. But I'm not one of those people that when like Marvel started pumping out those movies, like before, like it got to this ridiculous level that it's at now. I'm not one of those people that was like, I've always been a fan of Iron Man. I'm like, I read a couple Iron Man comics.
Right.
That's it. Like, you know what I mean? I wasn't
Right.
like, I read more because I became more interested in it because the movie was successful. Like I had read like all the bare bones Marvel stuff. So like most of the Iron Man stuff I had read, he was in like team ups and Avengers comics. I never really read a whole lot of solo Iron Man until the movies came out, because I'm not going to lie. I'm
Right,
not
right.
going to lie to people and try to pretend to be a fake nerd. But I read a bunch of DC. I read a bunch of DC, and I read Spider-Man as a little kid, but I read most of DC stuff.
Did you ever see like with Wonder Woman the origins of how they came up with her, that character, and
Oh, yeah,
how
I've read.
the
It's
bondage?
fascinating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the whip and all that. It's all like
I mean,
bondage.
I mean, I'm a guy who likes to get treated like a little bit of a bitch. So that, that's like, that was fascinating to me. They made like a movie about it too, I believe. And the movie wasn't very good, but yeah, it was, yeah. I mean, but and like people criticize the comic a lot for that, but I'm like, first of all, it's the 30s.
I think it's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah. It's like also a really cool story. And like the character isn't like that anymore. Like she's not bound and shit. Like it's like a lot, they're written by capable writers now. So like, stop bringing up. There's a great there's a book about it that I read where I can't remember the exact title, but I remember reading it on a plane ride from New York to California when I was doing theater and I was acting. Like I remember I read the whole book.
Nice, man.
Hours. Yeah.
You still acting? You still trying to get off the ground with that, or you still doing theater?
I was doing theater. I was like, I wanted to be an artist. I wanted to die like broken in an alley with my hand in a prostitute's pants. Like that's what I wanted to do. Like that was, but so I did it for a while and I got burnt out. Some of it was the personalities that I met that I just didn't mesh well, and not from like any kind of idealistic or political standpoint. It just personality wise, some people are just full of themselves, and
especially LA, the LA theater scene must be like tons of that.
A little bit. And I met I still have friends that are actors that live in LA, and there's one of them actually was just in the I don't know if you saw the Lakers. They did a story about the Lakers at HBO.
Oh yeah, yeah.
A guy I know, I'll give him a shout. His name's Jimmy. He's awesome. He was on an episode. He was like the Bulls owner on that, and he's good. But like I've met other people where it's just like the kind of dudes that come in wearing a scarf and a stupid hat and Robert Downey Jr. sunglasses, and they're like, I am an actor, and I'm just like, you are like the person you are. That how can you be a genuine actor? The person you are is fake. Like what you're presenting to me as your real self isn't even believable.
Exactly, man. Yeah, I've had that instance with actors as well. They get full of themselves, and and if they don't have a script in front of them, they have nothing to say. So it's like they're just empty vessels, man. Like
and again, there are really good, talented, hardworking people out there that I've been lucky enough to meet, and some that I still know are trying to break into it and stuff. And God knows I wish them all best of luck, because it's not easy, getting there. Once you get it, though, it's pretty easy. Like everybody's like, isn't it hard? And I'm like, when you get to a certain level, no. I mean, like they tell you what to wear, they tell you where to stand, they tell you what to say. They literally give you a book of the words you're supposed to say. You know what I mean? Like how it's of that, like. I'm not saying there's a prize, but like that's a little bit of a prize, like
right, yeah.
Then you get some like real work eventually. Where you have to like really challenge yourself and like sink yourself into a role. But for the most part, you're just doing that stuff.
What were some of the? I'm sorry, keep going, man.
I was just saying, like as far as me, like, do I still do it? Like I'm actually doing a movie right now. Like there's a small indie film that's being shot that a friend of mine has written and finally got to be in it. And he's actually got a couple stars in it, which. I don't know if I signed an NDA. I signed a lot of stuff on set, so I don't know if I can say who's in it, but like there's a couple genre actors from like the horror movies that are in it, and it's coming out probably end of the year. We're still filming it, but he's kind of editing it as he goes along. It looks really cool, the stuff he sent me, and it's cool to do it because I haven't acted in a while, so it was kind of cool to do. I mean, film acting is different than theater. But it's still something I still enjoy it. I just like comedy more.
Right. Yeah. Because I was going to say, like, what's out of all the theater you've done, do you have any characters that stand out that you enjoyed doing? Or
I liked it all, mainly. Like it was because I don't know, when I was in college, I like wanted to play certain parts. But when I started like going out there doing stuff, like I just enjoyed doing it. Like I don't know if there was any, because I was always happy just to get a part, which sounds super like
right.
dumb, but like
no, it's true though. Yeah,
but I enjoyed I enjoyed doing it so much. Like I was, even if I didn't get a particular part that I might have, because I did a lot of Shakespeare early on. I did a lot of Shakespeare. I studied the shit out of Shakespeare for a long time. And like I did a lot of that. I did the Long Island Shakespeare Festival, which I don't even know if it's a thing. I don't think it's a thing anymore. When I was in my 20s, we got to do this really awesome thing where it was a paid gig, and it was like it ran for like a month and a half or whatever like that, and it was like a real theater, like a real paid theater gig that was around for a while.
Nice, man.
And so I did a lot of Shakespeare. Not that I'm not saying I'm brilliant. I just enjoyed it. And so, but I just enjoyed being on stage. So I never really there's no part that I liked. As far as stuff I remember fondly, I always remember the cast, the people I worked with.
Yeah,
you know, because that to me is what made it a good experience. But when you do theater, you're stuck with these group of people for like months sometimes, or weeks, the same people every day, and it's and like really intimate settings. And if you don't like that, it just makes it the whole experience fucking miserable. You know what I mean? So like you tend to block out those bad experiences because like if you hated somebody, you're like, ugh, that show sucked. Because I had to work with Derek. Derek sucked. You know what I mean?
Right.
But when you have a group of people that you work with, and that was really good. Because I remember like I did a production of Great Gatsby out in California for like this on like outside on this like for like a private. We did like a run for like this rich guy out there or something like that. I was cast from the producer was an old friend of mine. And I just remember that was actually a fun experience because that cast was a lot of fun to hang out with and do stuff with that. But yeah, I remember stuff like that and everything, because most of the time, if I really wanted a part, I wouldn't want to watch myself now anyway, because I was probably like taking myself too seriously and overthinking too much. And if I watch it now, I'd probably be like, "Ugh, well, this is a bucket of shit."
I think we all think that when we look back at our past work. But man, you must have been really serious about acting at that point in your life.
At one point, yeah, I was.
You went for it. You took got on a plane, went to California, relocated for this.
I didn't relocate. I want to be clear on this. So I got cast in something, and I was pretty for the small company that was sort of on the rise at one point and was getting a lot of funding. So I would go out for like 3 years. I went out there for like 3-4 months, and I would basically live out there for that 3-4 months and everything, and work on a project and out there and get paid for it and hope to try to build the company. And then for a multitude of reasons, it fell apart. And that was actually another reason why I stopped doing acting, because that was a big blow to my ego. And I was like, well, you know, when you like date a girl and then like she breaks your heart, and then people are like, just get back out there. And you're like, that was the worst feeling I've ever had in my life. Why would I ever do that again?
Yeah.
That's how it felt. It just felt like I really failed at something. But you know, such is life. So that's when, you know, come multitude of stuff and everything. Yeah.
But you still have the creativity in you and the need to perform, and you've now found comedy.
Yeah.
And you've been doing that for what, a couple of years? How long have you been doing stand-up now?
About 5 years now.
Yeah.
I'm still new at this. And like I like talking about comedy, but I really try to, even on the podcast, I try to check myself and not sound like I'm just like, I hate people who think they have this figured out, because I don't have this figured out already. And sometimes you run into people who have been doing it for like a year, sometimes less, and they're like talking like they have it all figured out and like it's all going to work out for them and everything like that. And which obviously it's good to have confidence, and you need that kind of confidence. But to say that you have every little nook and cranny figured out because you're in, like, you don't, especially in that first year, because I feel like when you first start comedy, you're just killing that first year because all your friends are showing up to support you.
Yeah.
And then like 2 years later, when no one gives a fuck, like you're just, you know, like I've always said, I'm like, if you haven't had that long walk from like the comedy club to like the Long Island Railroad or vice versa, the subway, or to your own car, where you're like, after some crap set, after you like thought that you were the shit, and you're just like, I quit. Like, I guess comedy's just not my thing. If you haven't had that real conversation, I know people are like, you should never have doubt. And I'm like, no, comedians are anxious, like doubtful people. You have to have doubt. Like most of us hate each other. Like, hate ourselves.
Right,
actually,
yeah.
is what I'm saying. You know what I mean? So like, I don't think you can be good at this unless you have a little self-hate. And
Yeah,
if you
I
haven't
agree.
had that walk to your like, you just call I remember I called a random girlfriend after a bad set at Broadway Comedy Club, and they picked up, And I was just like, I think I gotta quit. Like, I'm not good at this. Like, I suck, you know? And then I went home and woke up and decided not to quit and went to a, you know, kept doing it and everything. But you have to have that look in the mirror with yourself. You're just like, I'm terrible. Because it's bound to happen.
You got to
know?
dig deep, man. Like that's what happened with me, bro. I had a really bad set.
Yeah.
And like you talk about that walk to the car, you know, and I'm like, I don't know if I could do this anymore. And I did like 2 more shows after that, but my confidence wasn't the same.
Shot.
My swagger wasn't the same on stage. I was scared of the audience, you know, and that's when I realized, I was like, you know what, I don't know if I can continue doing this, because I had other things going on as well. And I was like, if I can't put 110% into the comedy and recover from this, then I can't, you know, then I, you know, slow down. But I always love stand-up, so I'm always gravitating around it.
Yeah, I understand.
But yeah,
it's scary. I mean, a lot of the first I did theater for a long time, so luckily I didn't really have any kind of like actual, like, not real stage fright. Like, I get nervous most of the time. I'll get nervous before I go up, like right before, and like then I'll, you know, as soon as I say something, I get any kind of reaction from the crowd, then I kind of settle in a little bit. But I'm always nervous right beforehand because it's nerve-wracking. I remember there was a new guy that's starting, this guy Donnie, and he's, you know, he's got like, you know, he's got good presence up there and everything. And he did like his first McGuire's show like not that long ago, and I was at the bar, and he was like, got any? I was like, I'm like, I look at him like, are you nervous? And he goes, a little bit. And I'm like, you should be. Everybody's judging you out there. And I just left.
nice.
But it's true. Like, I'm like, oh, don't worry, it'll be fine. It might not be. Like,
Right. It can go any which way.
Might not be. They might boo you off the goddamn stage, you know. But I knew it was going to be fine. It's his first show, and people are coming out to that first show, man. If it's the best show you had, it'll be the best show you have at one point for like a couple of years. Then when you really start figuring it out, and you start willing to, because you have to be willing to suck. You have to be willing to go out there and suck and figure out what doesn't work and what is funny and what your version of I'm still figuring it. I feel like I just figured out how to write jokes in the last year. Like, and I mean, like on a bare bones level. Like, I don't like, if people ask me for advice, I always ask them, I always like refer them to like a Landolfi or something like that. Like, I just like, I guess I just speak confidently when I talk, but like, I don't know. Sometimes I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But like, I don't feel comfortable giving it just because I've only been doing it 5 years, and I know this takes a long time to figure out. So I just kind of like tell them, people, like, what worked for me, and I'm like, you can try this. This is what worked for me. But like, you know, this is, you know, there's no guarantee, because comedy's so subjective. The way that we do comedy is really subjective, and like, nobody, like, your sense of humor is probably going to be, no matter, even if we do laugh at the same things, like, your sense of humor is always going to be just a little bit different than mine, and than that person's or that person's.
Right, yeah.
So and I think that's what's also so daunting about comedy to some people, is that it is so subjective, and that it does, like, not everybody finds the same thing funny that they do. Like if everybody basically finds the same set, like, everybody cries at the same thing, but you don't get that same luxury with comedy. Not everybody laughs at the same joke, especially nowadays.
Yeah, exactly. Uber sensitive and all kinds of craziness going on.
If you want to do, that's fine. I don't give a shit. Yeah, I don't care. Do that. It's your act. Do your act. I'm all about people who want to go out there and perform live, but I do feel like at the same time, people take advantage of it. It's like, no, comedy has to be this. Like, no, comedy can be whatever the fuck it needs to be, because it's comedy. But you can't sit there and say that it's only this. That's when you start hindering comedy.
I agree with you.
I'm sorry to go on a rant about that, but it bugs me.
What was the question?
Fuck off.
So now at this stage now, what are your goals with this? Where do you want to take it?
Yeah, it's funny. People have asked me, I've run into a lot of people that have asked me this a lot lately. And I think it's good to know what I'm doing with it. I mean, like, my goal with it is to see if it can get picked up by a decent radio station that means something. You know what I mean? Like, because I do, again, I'm an Opie and Anthony, Ron and Fez, like Howard Stern, Eric, like that's like, I listen to a lot of Sirius XM as well. Like, that kind of, like, there's a faction talk. Actually, Ron Bennington has a Ron Bennington show now, which I listen to and everything. And like, I'll check out Kumia's Compound Media and everything, just because, like, those are the kind of guys that I watched growing up, and that's the kind of radio that I really liked, and the kind of, like, listening to I really like. And I feel like a lot of that does work for podcasts. So, you know, it's my main inspiration as far as, like, like that was really like that old stuff, like where they would just get like one guy in a room and some guy would just talk and just try to make the host laugh. You know what I mean?
Right.
So.
Yeah, man. I think you're on the right track.
So I would like it to be on like either a podcast network eventually that means something, or like a series. I hope it does. Maybe I suck. I don't know. Maybe people look at it like this guy's talking out of his ass. I don't know. But like I just know that I have to keep recording and keep making these episodes and try to see if I can do a little bit better each time, or try to see what does work and what doesn't work, because we've only done, I think, like 40. So Chris, how many episodes? 36 episodes right now. And like I was just talking to another friend of mine who's doing a podcast, and they were saying how there's maybe a little fatigue with the co-hosts and everything, that they may be a little burned out. And I'm like, dude, you're only like 30 episodes in, man. Like if there's fatigue now, like that's, so and because it's a lot. People think like this is a fun thing, but it's like a lot you record it, you have to make, edit it, put the reels out, stuff. So
you got to love it. Yeah.
Just gotta love it. You got to really love the product and this part too, and putting the episode out there. You got to love that part, but there's a lot of bullshit you got to wade through. That's not as fun.
Right on, bro.
Not all smoking weed on air, Okay,
actually, Chris, you could look it up if like the TV shows everyone what stuff means. They have it.
If the TV shows everyone what stuff means? I don't know if like that's the name of the episode. That's the name of the episode.
Thanks so much for taking the time and to do the show with me, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, man. Appreciate it. Really do.
Yeah, bro. Tell everybody where they could find you, follow you, catch the show, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I am. If you want to find Millennial Stoner, we're on several different platforms. We're on Google Podcast. We're on Stitcher. We're on Spotify. We're gonna be on iTunes soon. We just have to not. I'm just lazy. And I think I said we're on Spotify. I think I said we're on Spotify. We're on YouTube as well. Just Google, go on like YouTube, search Millennial Stoner, Spotify to come up. It's a picture of my face, all high, black and white picture. It says Millennial Stoner on it. We're only 36 episodes in. I got a couple in the can. They're going to come out. We're just going to keep doing it. If you want to find me on Instagram, it's at @ThatWinchellKid87. Again, at @ThatWinchellKid87. I'm going to change that soon because I know some people are hard to find me, but you also find Millennial Stoner. I'm going to start, there's going to be a link there to my Instagram, and I post everything on Instagram. On Facebook, just search Joe Winchell. It'll come up, and there's also a link to my Instagram on there. I post all of my show stuff onto my Instagram. And when does this come out?
This will be out in 2 weeks, 2 Fridays.
Okay, never mind. So I was going to say, hosting this weekend at McGuire's. Andy Pitts is headlining, so if you're around, but none of that matters because this is going to be 2 weeks from now. So I hope everybody that was there enjoyed the show. This is past Joe telling future Joe, like, good job. Hopefully,
you killed, man.
Thanks. Oh, thanks, man. Thanks. Thanks for having me on, dude. I appreciate it, and thanks for listening and being a fan.
Yeah, dude. Thanks again for doing this. You rock, brother. Hope to see you around out and about soon, man.
Yeah, man. Hope to run into you soon. Be good to see you again. All right.
Take care. Joe Winchell, everybody.
Laters.